Hi YouTube friends, how are you? I hope you're having an amazing day. This video that I would like to share with you is my personal experiences with UFO phenomenon as a testimonial. And I gotta tell you that my life is completely changed once I had the opportunity to actually see the lights in the skies so many times. And it all began with a friend asking me if I was a believer in the UFO phenomenon, and I said no. And he said, "Are you familiar with crop circles?" I said no. And he said, "Have you ever wondered who built the pyramids?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And so these were some big questions that really took me by surprise. And that point forward, I did a lot of research on these subjects because I had to know the truth. I had to know that if this was real and it was being concealed, why? And if they're out there, why isn't this being shared with everybody? So I'll share my personal experience, and then I'll share why I think that they don't want people to know that there's more advanced life forms already living among us. So the first time that I saw a UFO in the sky, and I've seen the lights many times, at least like 35 times and or more. And as far as seeing an actual alien first hand, like in person, no. I've heard of people having those experiences, but not me. And so the first time it happened, I was in Montana. I came out of the house, I looked up into the night sky. I see this light that appears out of nowhere. It was about 8 times bigger than any star, and it moved like in a U-turn like this. And I was in shock because that's right when I started believing that they were out there. And I looked to the night sky, wondering if they're out there. And sure enough, something was out there, and it was not a human plane at all. Another one that is extremely memorable to me, I had built this thing called the Cloud Buster that Dr. Wilhelm Wright had built and tried to replicate to try to be able to create rain. And so I built my machine. I was there with the Zens I was making in the atmosphere. And sure enough, that day there was some anomalies where cloud was actually beginning to build, and it was really, really exciting because I felt like I had a part in a role in that. And while I was doing that, this red light thing came out, and it was pretty good size. It was really big, and it came to me like it almost looked like it was flashing. And it was not a helicopter. It didn't make a sound like that. It was not a plane. It actually came towards me, and I got a little scared, and I ran behind a tree. And because I said, "Gosh, here I am, wanting to create rain, and with this device," and it was just my first reaction. And so after that, I went right back, and I'm like, "Gosh, I wonder if it's still there." And I came back around, I was looking for it, and it wasn't there anymore. But it was like a really phenomenal experience because it was so unique. It was so vivid that it was definitely not a human aircraft of any kind. And the other various times that I've seen them, one time that I was pretty memorable too, I was there with the Cloud Buster, with the device, and in the evening, and I was just there doing my Zens experimenting, and then all of a sudden this eagle flies above me, and it's like kind of right above me, coming from the north side, and it goes and it does its sound, and all of a sudden, right when that happened, I look up, and then I see a light that appears out of nowhere and then drifts in the sky and disappears, probably the size of around 3 or 4 stars. And then after that, I just started looking up, and I started seeing them more. And that's how it starts. You start looking up, and when you do the research on what a shooting star is, when a star actually blows up, decomposes, and it just sends like a a flash of light out. And then when you look up what a comet is and how they move in the atmosphere and how consistent they are and how they kind of very slowly merge in and merge out, these lights don't merge in and out. They just flash right out of the blue, out of nowhere. They just appear, and then they drift in the sky, and then they disappear. And I have seen numerous lights like that, and one of the most magical times, I would say, was when I was doing a spoken word, which is when you're just speaking and rhyming with my friends in Costa Rica while walking on the beach sand barefoot in the evening at nighttime around 10:30 it was, and so we were out there in the beach and I was doing my spoken word, and while I was doing that, there was at least like 6 lights that I saw in the sky. One of those came right from the opposite side of the ocean, and we saw it and we're like, oh, look at that, and we all saw it together. And another one of those lights was when I was doing my spoken word, and I was seeing these lights come in and out, and they weren't stars, they weren't planes, because they would appear out of nowhere and then drift really fast and disappear. And that right there really, I really felt in a very euphoric state, because I felt like they were connecting with me. That's how I felt, because I was seeing them so much. And it brings like this deep level of mysticism and knowing that they're out there. And some people don't want to know they're out there, because our Hollywood has done such a great job to be able to distort reality from people and subliminally download thoughts and emotions of fear when it comes to this subject of actually being able to see them. So that was one of the most memorable ones, and I would say at least like 25 or 30 times I have seen lights appear out of the nothing and then drift really fast and then disappear. They don't fade most of the time. I mean, the majority of the time they actually disappear in the air, and I find it quite fascinating. And when I've looked down the rabbit hole as far as how is this craft engineered, and how are they able to do that, and then you start running into free energy. And Nikola Tesla around 1890 actually was able to tap into the unified field to draw energy infinitely to be able to create free electricity. And his financier JP Morgan didn't like that, because that would have put the PG&E companies at that time in a different name out of business. And so they took his inventions and they basically said, you know what, this is not going to make us any money, and they just went ahead and took his plans, and they locked them up, and they just kept it the way it is to this day. And I believe we're on the verge of actually unleashing those technologies, because it's so interesting when you look around and you realize that they're out there, and why they're not out there, the suppression is a big deal. Interesting enough, there's that mission that there's possibly life in other planets, and that sounds very out there, and it's not even coming so much into our reality. But Russia has already acknowledged that there are other UFO beings living among us, and so that is a really profound message there, because if they're living among us and you do the research, you come to find that they're actually living in the cavities of the hollow earth, that they're living also in volcanoes that are called the plasma beings, and also there's footage that you can find where they are going into the sun and out of the sun. I'm still trying to get my head around that myself, okay? But I believe it's real. And our information of what is reality is so distorted. It's so rigged in a way by the engineers of society themselves, of this world, that they don't want us to know, because in the end it's about money and control, I believe. And so if these things come to the mass population, there's too much money and control to give away back to the people, and it does not benefit those that are in power. And so that is, I believe, the reason why these things have not come out to the vast majority of the people. Their craft, my understanding is a free energy propelled anti-gravitational craft that is actually driven through telepathy. And Tesla is already working for a plan to implement telepathic driving abilities for their cars. So it's that tangible. I mean, it's really interesting and really quite empowering, because when you realize that they're all around us and living among us, then that actually breaks a lot of borders of belief of the possible. And I think that when you break more and more borders of belief of what's possible, then all of a sudden your belief system's completely changed. And that's another thing that those that are empowered just rather not have. They'd rather have people be in the dark. They'd rather have people be completely dependent to gas and batteries with planned obsolescence and limited driving distances, and very limited capacities to be able to move from different points, because those that benefit the most from the borders are the governments themselves, not the people, because the people in the end have to pay taxes. If you want to transfer something outside the country, there's a tax. If you want to bring something in the country, there's a tax. There's taxes oftentimes from both sides. And the only people that lose is the people in the end, that the people themselves that are the citizens of society, and the governments of society would benefit off that. So it's very unfortunate, but I do believe we're going to be going into a place of change. I do believe that this method and this way of thinking and living and so on and so forth will change. And so I will say that one of the most interesting stories have been the story of an abduction story. And I'll share that with you in another video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.